Good afternoon. The presentation will begin in 5 minutes. Good evening. The presentation will begin shortly. We are waiting on a few additional panelists, and then we will begin the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. The Florida Department of Transportation would like to welcome you to the public meeting for State Road 15 resurfacing project. My name is Helen James, and I am the FDOT project manager for this project. This public meeting is relative to financial management project number 44610215201. Next slide 3, please. At this moment, I will introduce the project team. Next slide 4, please. With us this evening, we have our consultant team, Propel Engineering, led by project manager Marja Lam. We also have Jim Mamoka and Istiak Ahmed. Lastly, if there are any elected officials that have joined the meeting, I invite you to please introduce yourself. Not seeing any elected officials. Next slide 5, please. Next, I will go over this evening's brief agenda. We will start our presentation with the technical information. We'll cover the non-discrimination policy and rules of engagement. Then we will discuss the project location and overview, the existing roadway, the proposed improvements, the temporary traffic control plan, the project schedule and cost, and then we'll open up for questions and answers and have a closing and contact information at the end. I will now pass it on to Ms. Erica to cover the first item on the agenda.
Slide 6, technical information. Slide 7, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this presentation is being held virtually and in person. This virtual public meeting is being held via GoToWebinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode during the Q&A session. If you have any questions, you may use the raise hand tool as shown on the right, or you may provide any comments or questions you may have in the question box as shown on the right. Slide 8. This virtual public meeting notification for this virtual public meeting was sent out via flyers to the property owners and tenants. Emails were sent to the project contact list. It was posted on the Florida Administrative Register and on social media. Slide 9, rules of engagement and non-discrimination policy. Slide 10, non-discrimination policy. The Florida Department of Transportation complies with various non-discrimination laws and regulations, including the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This meeting is being held without regards to race, color, national origin, age, sex, religion, disability, or family status. For questions or concerns, you may contact either the District 4 Department of Transportation Title VI Coordinator, Ms. Sharon Sanghai, again at 3400 West Commercial Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33309, or the Tallahassee office, Florida Department of Transportation Title VI Coordinator, Ms. Jacqueline Paramore at 605 Swansea Street, Tallahassee, Florida, 32399. Slide 11, rules of engagement. This virtual public meeting is being recorded. If you experience any technical difficulties, please contact me, Erica Moran, at 561-389-1622, or you may email me at erica@propel-engineering.com so that a member of our technical support team may assist you. All attendees will remain muted throughout the meeting. Attendees are welcome to submit any questions or comments using GoToWebinar question panel at any time, and a member of the team will respond during the open discussion. If you are participating via telephone and have questions or comments, feel free to submit them to the FDOT PM Helen James after the meeting, and a response will be provided. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Majalam.
Slide number 12. We are going to be talking about project location and then overview of the project. Next slide, please. As you can see, this is in slide 13 is showing some aerial view with the yellow line highlighting the our roadway that we're gonna be working, which is State Road 15, starting at Canal Point, right at the bottom, showing begin project limit at Canal Point, and it goes about 6 miles, which is end of the county line, which is shown on the top, and project limit. So this is actually our project limit for this resurfacing project. Next slide, please. So the proposed improvement that we mentioned in this slide going to be mentioned in 14, which is we're going to be repaving the existing travel lane, as you can see on the right picture, showing some big crack. We will be also widening the roadway shoulder to typically 7 feet paved shoulder, including 5 feet unpaved, will be total 12 feet shoulder. And we are going to also construct the sidewalk. It will be from north of 3rd Street to Ammons Road, which is basically at the end of the existing sidewalk. We're going to continue until Ammons Road. We also will be installing lighting and the same limit as the sidewalk, which is from 3rd Street to Ammons Road. And throughout the project, we will be installing new pavement marking. And as I mentioned before, the project length is a little over 6 miles. With that, next slide, please. So slide 15 is the existing roadway that we will be showing in next slide. Next slide, please. So this is slide 16. As you can see, the project is showing two black arrow up and down, which is 2 lane, is 12 feet width of each lane, has 8 feet shoulder in the both side, and about 4 to 5 feet is the paved shoulder. And you can see typical right of way is about 66 feet. That is centered with 33 feet in each side of the center of the roadway. Next slide, please. Slide 17 is showing some existing roadway features on the right side, as you can see, showing some existing sidewalk. As I mentioned before, there is a existing sidewalk beginning of our project, which is in the Canal Point area. That the condition shown on the right picture, and the left side is showing that existing roadway condition. It has some horizontal curve, and as you can see, is showing 2-lane, two-way traffic. Next slide, please. Now, slide 18 is a proposed improvement that we're going to be discussing in next couple of slides. Slide 19, which is this is our one of the typical section number 1. This is basically starting from 3rd Street to Ammons Road, which is about a mile and a half. So you can see this this proposed condition. We are still maintaining that existing 12 feet lanes on both sides, and we are widening the shoulder from 4 feet to 7 feet. The paved shoulder gonna be on both sides. And as you can see on the right side is showing concrete sidewalk. So we'll be adding the sidewalk close to the right of a line, which will be, as I mentioned before, from 3rd Street to all the way to Ammons Road. Next slide, please. Typical section 2 in slide number 20. As you can see, this is the similar typical section. Still, we are maintaining the existing 2-lane, 1 lane in each direction, and we do have a 7 feet wide paved shoulder, and total shoulder will be 12 feet. And this section we are not adding any sidewalk. Next slide, please. Slide number 21. This is basically some typical construction activities you will encounter during the construction. On the right side, that when the contractor gonna be installing the sidewalk, constructing the sidewalk, there will be some activities similar to the one you are seeing on the right picture. And on the left side, that when they're going to be doing the paving operation, taking the existing asphalt out and put the new asphalt. So that will be the operation on the left side. As you can see, they will be using that machinery to do that. With that, next slide, please. Slide number 22, the temporary traffic control plan that we're going to be showing in the next slides. So that the temporary lane closure will be actually non-peak hour, and especially that we will avoid school time to make sure we are not disturbing the school drop off and pick up. And since this is a two-lane facilities, we need to actually using the flagger operation. That means one lane will be closed. Traffic need to use the other lane for both way traveling. And all work will be done in phases, so we can minimize the interaction or impact to the community. And we are not going to be closing a complete closure of the road, so there will be still access going through the traffic north-south using this roadway. And we will also maintain the access to the property owner at all the times. Next slide, please. Slide number 24, that's basically one of the example of the flagger operation, as I was mentioning before. On the right picture, you can see that, the construction crew, they're working on one of the lanes and they close that lanes, and that only one lane being open, and that lane is being traffic is being used for both bound. So that's why two individuals, they are standing in both end of that closure, and they are using that they are giving that direction, and both of them are talking with the walkie-talkie to have a safe traffic movement during that using only one lane but both directions. So with that, next slide, please. And then slide 25 is a project schedule and cost that we will be discussing in next slide. So right now the plan is about 90% phase, and the project schedule to finish the production, meanings that finalizing the design plan will be by January of next year, and that letting, which is basically that process of hiring a contractor, will be done in April 2023, which is next year. And then a construction estimated start time will be summer next year. And also that we are anticipating these construction activities will take about an year. So that will lead to completion of the construction will be summer of 2024. And at this moment, the estimated cost is little over 19 million. With that, next slide, please. Okay.
Questions and answers. Slide 28. To provide a comment, please use the raise hand button on your GoToWebinar panel. Once your microphone is unmuted, please provide your full name first and then your comment. Your microphone will remain unmuted until the comment has been fully addressed. Attendees are also encouraged to submit questions or comments using the GoToWebinar question panel. If your question is not responded to during the event, a response will be provided in writing following the virtual meeting. At this time, I would like to welcome my panelists to turn on their videos and unmute themselves. And we'll begin with any questions from elected officials. It does not look like there are any at this time. So we will take questions from attendees at this time. Okay, so
Ricard, they are unmuted. They can talk. Am I right?
there is nobody who has raised their hand, but I do have some questions that did come in earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and read those out. Question 1 we received. Can we get roadway lighting between 17018 and 17500? I have lived in this area since 2003, and there was a small stretch of lighting in the past. But with the hurricane, they have disappeared, and it would greatly improve the visibility of the current residents and commuters.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Like Maj had mentioned in the project description, we are adding lighting from the beginning of the project, basically Canal Point to Ammons Road. The way that's determined whether we're going to add lighting or not, there's a lighting justification, which is a Federal Highway Administration policy of how to determine where to put roadway lighting and on which road to put it. That procedure considers traffic volumes, operational characteristics of the roadway, considers the surrounding environment, and also, most importantly, the crash data and the crash history of the area. And when you go through that process and you do an engineering analysis of it, that's where it was determined that lighting was warranted for that first section of roadway that we are putting it in, but beyond that, it was not.
Yeah, to elaborate what Jim was saying, yes, we did the due diligence, which is actually called warrant study for lighting. And based on the study, it came that first 1.5 mile will be requiring to put the lighting. And that the address was given, look like 17018 and 17500. That's look like that this area that citizen has a concern will not get it doesn't warrant for lighting. So
Question number 2. Although the project is to improve the roadway, by leveraging this construction, what are the possibilities of expanding the fiber optic cable to the rest of the citizens of 441? There is fiber optic cable on 441 up to 14960 US Highway, US 441. There are 2 miles north of this point with 8 other Palm Beach County residents. For context, there are families with high school, elementary, and preschool students who live in this stretch.
okay, so let me take that and then Jim can add. So basically, the adding any fiber for the internet use or cable communication for any TV is done through the private entities. So Comcast and some other kind of private owner, they are the one actually build them, and then they work with the individual owner to subscribe their services. FDUT does not install those actually, so they actually provide the permit to the private agency to install them. So, so that Jim, you wanna explain anything?
Yeah, I'll just add on to that the person who asked this question, you may have seen or identified that DOT is putting in fiber in locations, and it is true. DOT has a very extensive fiber network, but that is required to be only for public service. So the DOT and occasionally counties and cities can piggyback on it as well, but it is required for public use. And the DOT can't be in the business of supplying private internet to private homes.
Yeah. So with that means basically that the fiber is normally DOT and county will install, which is basically gonna be using for for signal communication, for intelligence traffic operations, also towards the crime. So that's basically normally we as a public agency we do.
Okay, next question. During the construction of the roadway, how will I maintain access to my private developments?
So duty has very well thought procedure to ensure that public has access to their properties, their businesses, their residents all the time during the construction. So basically, you are seeing right now one set of team. Basically, we are the designer team, and we have a public involvement officer and the designer, and you will see the similar team during the construction. There will be a construction team that comprise of contractor, CEI, which is called construction engineering inspector, and also FDUT personnel. So they, and as well as the public involvement personnel. So they will be the one coordinating with the each property owner, ensure when they are working in front of their property, they provide the full access to the property. So they will be communicating with individual to ensure that all the access are being maintained throughout the construction.
Next question, how will the construction impact the pickup and drop off times for the nearby elementary school?
It's a good question. As I mentioned before, that at this moment, based on the traffic data, we do not have any fully constrained lane closure time. However, we are putting a restriction to the contractor that they will not be allowed to work during the school drop-off pickup time to eliminate that, especially the morning time, the rush hour time is. So we are putting that restriction in the plan. So that contractor will be working with the school to knowing their time and make sure that they are not impacting that school drop-off pickup time and drop-off time.
Next question, how will noise and pollutants be handled during the construction of this project?
Yeah, and so DOT has also very established guidelines to minimize any kind of noise and also the dust pollution during the construction, especially for the dust. The contractor, it depends on the time of the year when they are working, and that depends on the wind, how much wind and what kind of activities they are doing. So they are required to minimize the dust so that it doesn't go. Usually they use like a water spray or even some temporary sheeting to make sure that it does not get the dust to bother the neighborhood. So and as far as the noise, basically that also that there is a the guideline also that is in that duty procedure to ensure that they are not there is a monitoring of the noise level to does not exceed that noise level to ensure they are not negatively impacting the community. And like for example, for the close to the neighborhood, usually in the nighttime construction are not recommended because of to avoid the noise during the nighttime. Jimmy, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. Like you mentioned, the standard specifications that DOT has that a contractor will be required to follow pretty clearly outlines their responsibilities to control the dust and the noise and all that. So if they are not doing that, there are mechanisms in place to force them to do it.
And we would actually appreciate any kind of that issue during the construction time, any citizen or property owner, encountering, please bring it to our, the construction team, which will be including a public involvement officer. So definitely, we will work with the community to have a successful project.
And shortly before construction, you'll receive a flyer similar to the one for this that talks about the anticipated work, probably a more detailed time frame, notification for that meeting, as well as people to contact if you do have questions throughout construction.
I do have a question in the chat, so let me I have one question. I'm going to read that right now. It says, we have a trucking business and would like to ask if any asphalt or materials will need to be hauled for this project. We could get access to the millings that are removed from the road. Could we get access to the millings that are removed from the road?
I can take that one if you'd like, Maj.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So the way the DOT process works is that once we are done designing the plans, the DOT will hire a contractor. And once that's done, all of that, it's all on the responsibility of the contractor to find out, to hire subs to do the trucking, to hire a asphalt plant to provide them with asphalt, to take the millings. At that time, the DOT does not have any say in that process. That is all on the private contractor. But once this comes closer to bidding and it's put out there for review by contractors to bid on it, at that time, I would suggest that you get in touch with other contractors. There's a public list made of all the plan holders that have it, so you could get that list and contact the individual contractors yourself.
Yeah, I think you cover it well, Jamie. Yeah, basically that, so that's process of taking that materials, working with the contractor, that you had to actually kind of reach out to this prospective contractor when they're bidding for the project, so you can get a head start in your game plan. So
in general, the way the DOT does business is that all the material that would need to be removed from the project becomes the property of the contractor. So we wouldn't even have the right to be able to sell it separately. Any other questions, Erica?
I do not have any more questions. Didn't know if anybody had any other questions on the chat or would like to ask a question on the webinar. Just raise your hand and let us know, or provide your question in the chat box.
Those were very good questions, Erica. I just want to, reiterate, to the public that there'll always be a public involvement officer throughout design and construction, and any questions or complaints, we always would like to hear from the public and make sure we cause the least amount of disturbance to them. It's 6 miles long of project we have to pave, so it will take a while to get all that done. So just reach out to us and we can work something out and make sure everyone is kept happy throughout the construction phase as well.
As there does not appear to be any additional questions, I will thank my panelists for joining me, and I'll head on to the next slide. Slide 29, closing and contact information. Slide 30, please submit any additional comments by July 14th, 2022. If your question was not responded to during the event, a response will be provided later. All comments and questions are part of public record, and all registrants will receive a link to the meeting recording. Slide 31. If you have any additional questions, please contact Helen James, PE, FDOT Project Manager at helen.james@dot.state.fl.us or at 3400 West Commercial Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33309, or you may contact her at 954-777-4346 or toll free at 866-366 or 336-8435 extension 4346. Thank you very much for attending our virtual public meeting. And please complete our exit survey. Okay. The webinar will now be